All right, so here we go. Let me share my screen. All right. Can I get a thumbs up to make sure that people can see this okay? Okay, great, awesome. So as I mentioned, we are just going to go over kind of what folks can expect for HIV Speaks on Jones Street, which is next Wednesday, May 31st. Ready? So here's just a quick little schedule for the day. So first thing first is we will be starting at the North Carolina Museum of History, which is on 5 East Edenton Street in downtown Raleigh. When you approach the museum, we'll go over parking a little bit later, but when you approach the museum, this street that you're seeing right here is Edenton Street. And there are glass doors right off of Edenton Street. You can enter through those. That's going to be the easiest way to get in. That's going to be exactly where we are with registration and and breakfast that morning. So you'll enter in via the Edenton Street entrance of the museum. Registration and breakfast will start at 8:30. It'll be open from 8:30 until 9 for breakfast. The museum does require us to clear breakfast by the time they open at 9. And then registration will be open from 8:30 to 9:30. There is a chance that we will be able to keep breakfast open a little bit longer. So don't worry about rushing if you're not there by 9 o'clock. We will still have breakfast for you. And then we have our opening program, which is going to take place in the museum in the auditorium, and that'll be from 9:30 to 10:30 that morning, directly behind where our registration will be. So we have our opening program, and during that, we will just kind of go over our policy asks for the day. We're going to have a couple of welcome remarks from some government officials that we're really excited to have join us. And then we have a panel discussion that's going to be happening that day, which I mentioned in the email last night, is going to be about when our advocacy, when our communities are constantly under attack. So we've got some great folks from different coalition partner organizations who are going to be joining us for a panel discussion in the morning, and that will take place during the morning program. So the program should go from around 9:30 to 10:30. And then directly after that, we will move into the staircase of the museum and take a group photo. We always like to try and take a group photo at least every year. And for this, make sure you wear something red. We really want to make our presence and our numbers known at the NCGA. So it's always great to see a sea of red. So if you've got something red to wear, we hope that you'll wear it. And then, so after our group photo is when our legislative meetings will start. Legislative meetings will be booked between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. You'll also have lunch during this break when you get to registration that morning. When you get your packet of registration, it'll have all of your policy brief information, the things you're going to talk to your representatives about, and some leave behinds for them. It'll have your schedule of meetings, and you will also receive a lunch voucher. It's like a little business card that says HIV Speaks on Jones Street on it. And you can use that. You will just turn that in at the General Assembly cafeteria, which we'll talk about a little bit later as far as location. And you will just give them that when you check out with your lunch, and we will take care of that on the back end, so you don't have to worry about paying for lunch. As I mentioned, legislative meetings are going to happen from 11 to 3. We are working on getting those all booked right now. We've got about 15 or so books, so we've got quite a few meetings. You'll be broken up depending on where you are in the state with a group, so you're not going to be alone. You will have folks with you. And then after our legislative meetings, for folks who are able to stick around or who live in town, we are going to have a little small after hours decompression meeting afterward at Longleaf Hotel and Lounge, which is at 300 North Dawson Street, from around 5 o'clock to 6:30 p.m. So for folks who are still in town, we do hope you'll join us for that afterward. I will also note we're doing something a little bit different with our vendors this year. Rita has been actively recruiting folks to try and get some vendors to join us on Bicentennial Mall, which is this walkway that you see directly in front of you, in front of the museum, and it goes between the museum and the General Assembly. So we're going to have some community organization vendors. We'll have HIV testing that will be there throughout the day outside of the museum from 11 to 2. So make sure you stop by and say hello, and then also feel free to share with your legislators that we're going to have folks there to encourage them to go check out some community partners that'll be in front of Bicentennial Mall. All right. So when you get to registration in the morning, it opens at 8:30 at the museum. You will receive a personal folder, and on your folder we'll have a sticker up top that'll have your name, your representative's name, and their office number, which is where their office is located. And then inside your packet, you will have your team's scheduled meetings for the day. So everything that has been scheduled, which are confirmed meetings where you can actually talk to people in person. You'll have your 2 one-pager leave behinds, which are what you can give your representative. You'll have a couple of policy handouts that can help you in navigating your conversations so that you have something to pull through or pull from whenever you have your meetings, just with some facts and figures, because we know that politicians sometimes like those facts and figures. As I mentioned, you'll have your lunch voucher. And then we will also have some fun swag that we've got that will be at registration as well. I will also note that if you are seeking reimbursement for parking, we'll be able to do that for folks who need it. We'll have that at registration, and we'll probably have that as well throughout the day. Whenever we're in the General Assembly, we'll be able to just do $10 bills. We'll just have you sign that. So if you need parking reimbursement, just let us know that day and we can get that taken care of. I will also note, when you get to registration, if you have any accommodations as far as transportation or mobility issues, please let Rita know. Rita's going to be charging up registration that morning. That way we can make sure that we can get you over to the General Assembly from there. It's about a block walk, a little bit, kind of a big block, but it's about a block walk. It's not super far, but if you would like to have somebody pick you up at the museum and drop you off at the General Assembly, we are happy to do that. Just let an NCAN staff member or Rita know at registration, and we can get that arranged for you. All right, so after we've had our morning program, after registration and our welcome, we will be going to our legislative visits. So the legislative visit will take place at the NC General Assembly, which is about 1 block, as I mentioned, from the museum. Not too far of a walk, it's just straight across. And in your packet at registration with your scheduled visits, you'll get your locations of your representatives, what time they're scheduled, and their policy materials. So everybody's representative will be on their sticker. If it has a time beside it, that's when you meet with that representative. If it does not have a time, that means we were not able to schedule something, but we do encourage folks, when you have some spare time, to just drop by and speak with the LAs and drop off that materials. You will be assigned to a group with folks from your area of the state. So we've got, I think, about 5 or 6 groups this year. We have a huge number of registrants. We're up to about 90 folks. Hopefully everybody will show, that'll be the biggest HIV Speaks on Jones Street we've ever had. So we're really excited about that. And so you'll be assigned with people from throughout the state that are in your area of the state, and you'll have meetings with them. So you're not going to be meeting alone with anybody. You'll always have somebody with you. And I will note that meetings will take place in both the LB, the Legislative Building, and the LOB, the Legislative Office Building. So this building that you see in front of you, this is the Legislative Building. And then the Legislative Office Building we will talk about in just a minute. They are within the same street block, but they are 2 different buildings. So, as I mentioned, navigating the NCGA can be a little bit confusing. So, when you enter into the initial building of the NCGA, as I mentioned, that is the Legislative Building. And these are the offices that are 4 digits by the representative's name. So if your office number is, say, 1001 or 1101 or 1201, as long as it's 4 digits, it'll take place in this building. Lunch is also in the basement of the Legislative Building. So for any meetings with 4 digits, you'll come to this building, and for your lunch, you can take care of that in this building. So I will also note that NCAN staff will be stationed in the 1000 court. So when you enter in from the front, as you're coming back in from the museum, we will be in the little court directly to the right. So the way that the NCGA Legislative Building is broken up is it's broken up into 4 courts. You've got the 1000 court in the front right, the 1100 court, which is right behind that, the 1200 court, which is to the left of that, and then the 1300 court, which is at the front to the left. So it's kind of a square. If you get lost, just keep walking in a circle and you will eventually find where you're going. But our team, somebody will be stationed in the 1000 court, which is where you see this red flag throughout the day. So you'll come in through Jones Street entrance and go directly to the right if you need any assistance with anything. And then I marked with these little hamburgers The one on the right is a staircase, and the one in the middle is an elevator. If you take those, it'll take you down to the basement where lunch will be. When you get down there, it's going to look like a parking garage, but you are in the right place. Just look for the glass windows, and that'll take you directly to the NCGA cafeteria. If you have any questions, just let one of us know or somebody in the building know, and they will be able to direct you. But that's going to be the easiest way to get there, is either the stairs in the 1100 court or the elevators, which are right beside that. So again,
Matt, will this diagram be in their packets?
I can definitely print off some copies so that we have it. Yes, because it is a difficult place to navigate. But main thing that as I mentioned, legislative building, LB, is going to be any number that has 4 digits, that office with 4 digits. Now, the legislative office building, or the LOB, is this gray building that you see. There's kind of a little arrow pointing to it, that is going to be directly behind the North Carolina legislative building. So if it has 4 digits, legislative building, the one behind that is a legislative office building, and this is any room number with 3 digits. So you'll just go out the back entrance of the legislative building, and it'll be right to your left into the gray building right here, which is the legislative office building. And this is what's called Halifax Mall. You'll see a big field of green, and that's exactly where it is. And the exit is between the 1100 and 1200 courts, which we will have that diagram for you. I will note that when you enter into the legislative office building, you will be entering onto the 3rd floor. So it'll be any number that's like a 301 or 321. There are elevators there that'll take you up to the 4th, 5th, 6th floor. But when you enter in, just remember that you are on the 3rd floor. All right. Couple things to note. When you enter into both the legislative building and the legislative office building, you're going to have to go through metal detectors, and you're going to have to send your belongings through a metal detector on a conveyor belt for X-ray screening every time you go in. It's a little bit of a pain in the neck, but we just want to make sure that folks are aware that you're going to have to do this. So that means you might have to take a little bit of extra time to get to your next meeting just to make sure you can get through security. We've got a big group this year, so it's going to take a while for people to initially get into the General Assembly. It normally takes a little bit less time after you've been there for a little while, because not everybody's coming at the same time. But just do give yourselves a little bit of extra time, because you are going to have to go through metal detectors every time you go into a building. When you go in, electronics and keys have to be taken out of your bag and put into like a small dish or into the plastic bin they give you. If you don't take out your keys, they'll make you step to the side, take them out, and then go through again. So it's easiest just to any kind of electronics you have, like a laptop or iPad or tablet, if you have one, go ahead and take those out of your bag and put them in the bag outside of your bag, as well as your keys if you have anything in your pocket, and make sure your pockets are completely empty. And as I mentioned, can be a little backed up. So make sure you give yourself and your team plenty of time to get there from meeting to meeting, and you'll have to do it every time you go in and out of a building. Pain in the butt, but we got to do what we got to do. Now, when you have your advocacy meetings, everybody has a place in advocacy. So we always kind of talk about 5 key roles whenever you're in your meetings. So you have somebody who's going to serve as your introducer, who will kind of just introduce the group and what you're talking about. It's always good to have a storyteller who's going to tell their personal story about why you are there, talking about HIV and what impacts our communities. It's always good to also have somebody who's a little bit of a fact knower, who can come in after the heartfelt meat and potatoes story of it and give some statistics or some numbers as to why it's also important. Because unfortunately, there are some representatives who don't care so much about the heartfelt stuff and are more concerned with the numbers. So it's always good to kind of have both. Then it's always good to also have someone who takes notes to let us know at NCA's Action Network how the meeting went. That way, if there's any follow-up questions, if there's a question that you don't know how to answer or you don't know the answer to, that way you can come to us, and it gives us a chance to follow up with those representatives. So it's good to take notes. It's also good to note if maybe it was a hostile meeting, if anybody doesn't seem super excited to be talking to you or says anything that's hurtful, let us know. That way we can handle that as well. And then we will have our Communications manager Maggie will be going over our social media toolkit during the opening program. And it's good for someone to kind of serve as your social media person for your group. The representatives some representatives love to engage with constituents via like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So take pictures, tweet at your representatives. We'll have all of that information with hashtags and how to tag people and all that information in the social media toolkit. So it's good to have somebody who enjoys social media kind of navigating this in the group throughout the day too. Let me see. Alrighty. Couple of reminders. So legislative schedules can be all over the place and can change very quickly, and representatives can often be pulled into meetings on super short notice. This can be really frustrating, but try and be as flexible as possible. There is a very good chance that every single meeting we've got scheduled for Wednesday is going to shift in time. So we just got to be nimble and be ready to change in the last minute. So it's really frustrating. Believe me, we understand, we feel it too, to have meetings switched last minute, but just be flexible and try and be accommodating as you can to the representatives, because sometimes you may have something booked with them, but then they get pulled into a committee meeting or a caucus meeting, and it just is what it is. So try and be flexible, try and not get too frustrated. I know it's frustrating. As I mentioned, even if you don't have a scheduled meeting for your representative, which will be on your sticker, it'll say who your representatives are and their office number. Make sure you still drop by and speak to their LAs. These are a great contact to have, and it's a great way to pass information to the representatives. You can still tell your story. You can still tell why it's important that you're here and what you're talking about, and leave the one pager, and they can pass that on to the representatives. So their legislative aides are a great resource to have. And even if you don't meet with the representative, it's still really good to meet with the legislative aide, because they control everything that the representative does schedule-wise and pass a lot of information to them. So make sure that you are engaging with the LAs if you're not able to speak to the representative. Last and final thing that's important to remember is that representatives work for the people. So you have every right to be in these meetings and have these conversations, and you're the subject matter expert. So this is the people's house. You have every right to be in those meetings and to be having these conversations and letting them know why HIV and our community matters so much. All right, now some outside details that kind of sums up what the day is going to look like. You're going to have your meetings from 11 to 3. You're going to do a great job and engage with lots of different legislators and senators from across the state. But here's some kind of logistic stuff just to make sure that we get there as soon as, or get to everything as easily as possible. The 2 parking places that we recommend best for folks who are driving in that morning are the Green Square parking deck, which is on 120 West Edenton. That is the star on the left. That is about a block down from the museum. It is a parking deck, so you'll go in and it'll just be an hourly rate. They'll give you a little thing and you'll pay on the way out. That one's about 2-ish blocks from the museum and about 3-ish blocks from the General Assembly. The other one is the lot on Wilmington Street, which is 101 North Wilmington Street. And I will be sending this in an email next week before the day. So if you don't get this, don't worry about it. You'll have it in your email too. I would suggest giving priority to the Wilmington Street lot. I will know it is an outdoor lot, so it will get a little bit hot and it gets a little bit crowded, but that is the most centralized and quick access lot for both the museum and the General Assembly. So if you see where the little red flag is, that's the museum entrance. And this star on the right-hand side is the Wilmington lot, which is the outdoor lot. And then right at the very tip top in the middle, that's the General Assembly legislative building. So it's right in the middle of both of those. It's super close to both of those. But understand, if you don't want to park outside, the parking deck 2 blocks away is a great option as well. And as I mentioned, we will have parking reimbursement at registration and at the 1000 court throughout the day. So if you need reimbursement for parking, just let us know. All right, and then advocacy after hours is going to take place, as I mentioned, at Longleaf Hotel and Lounge, which is 300 North Dawson Street, just a couple blocks away from the General Assembly. There is parking on site. You can scoot on over there, and we can celebrate a day of advocacy together and relax and unwind and debrief the day from 5 to 6:30 at the Longleaf. It's a great outdoor spot. They're gonna have some tasty drinks and snacks. So we're excited about that. And I think that is it for the majority of our portion. I will leave it open to see if anybody has any questions that we can answer. And
Mac, I have a question. How far away is the Longleaf from the legislative buildings and where we're meeting for registration? Is that walking distance?
it is, I will pull up my Google or my Apple Maps. Give me 1 second so that I can plug it in just to give you an accurate answer. They are fairly close. But I'm not, it should be walking distance, but let me confirm for that. Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen real quick with this. Yep, so this is the Longleaf. Right here with the purple, the General Assembly is right there. So it's about a 7-minute walk. I think it said it's about a quarter of a mile. So it's 2 or 3 blocks. It's not super long. So if you want to walk it, it's definitely walkable. And then it's just an additional block for the museum. As you can see, that's kind of at the down bottom corner. So definitely walkable, about 7 to 10 minutes, depending on where you're headed.
Thank you.
Any other questions that folks have? I'm trying to look in the chat and see if there's anything. Yes, Wanda, go ahead.
Hi. We take all of our belongings with us when we leave the museum, correct?
Yes, correct. Good question. So when we leave the museum after the morning program, we're done there for the day. We have it until I think technically till 12. But once we are done with the morning program, go ahead and take everything with you. We won't be coming back to the museum for any reason. So.
Okay. And if we came in on the night before, we need to go ahead and check out of the Longleaf as well.
Yes, I would bet that if you are staying at the Longleaf, they can probably check your bags if you don't want to carry around your luggage.
That would be good.
Yeah, they should be able to at the desk at least check your bag so that you can just go back afterward and grab them before you have to head out of town.
Yeah, and I'll be using my walker, so I'll be doing Lyft or Uber. Yeah.
And I will say for folks who are staying at the hotel the night before, I think that we are going to try and organize an Uber XL that morning for if folks want to just hop in. Somebody from our staff is planning on meeting downstairs in the hotel. I want to say at 8:15 to head over to the museum as a group. So we will have an Uber XL for people to hop on to.
That would be lovely. And I don't know, my train leaves before the evening gathering, which I'll be sad to miss. Take pictures?
We definitely will. And you will be missed as well. I'm trying to see if there's anything in the chat. Any other questions? I was hoping that I would get y'all out of here in 30 minutes. I appreciate you joining me on a Thursday night, Friday Eve. I know everybody is tired from a long week and a long work day. But happy to answer any other questions if anybody has them. Last call. Okay, great. Well, I have recorded this, so I'll send this out I'll put it on our YouTube page and send it out to all the registrants just so folks have it to look over again. If you have any questions, drop me an email. All the emails you should be getting should be coming from me, matt@ncgaan.org. So reach out, holler if you need anything, and we are so excited to see everybody on Wednesday morning.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Wonderful rest of the week and a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Matt.